Hello?
Yes?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if anybody, I can't hear anybody. Did you start?
No.
Okay.
All right, everybody, we are live. Per the State of California Executive Order N2920, this meeting is being held telephonically. All public comments were received either by email or via voicemail as noted within the agenda. Council, please mute your microphones until called upon for comment or vote. Mayor, I'm now passing the mic over to you.
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Thank you. Mayor Wiggins?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Davies?
Here.
Councilmember Pogencord? Councilmember Pogencord, you may need to unmute.
Exactly. Here.
Councilmember Scrivener?
Here.
City Treasurer Scholler?
Here.
City Clerk Marsh?
Here.
All elected officials are present telephonically.
Thank you. And Pastor Mark Bixler is with us also?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask you, as the pastor from the Tehachapi Church of Christ, to offer our invocation.
Okay. Our Father, we are thankful that in spite of all of the challenges that we're facing right now, that we are so well protected and we have been spared of the ravages of this disease that so many are feeling. But Father, we also ask for, as one of our members said, a Passover of our community, that we will not have any severe symptoms and no deaths. But Father, we know that you can help us through any of the challenges that we naturally face. And we know that we are very blessed in so many ways beyond so many others in our state even, and certainly in this world. And so we also want to offer a special prayer of thanks for those that are a part of this meeting, some of whom are being called upon to interact in ways that present a little bit more danger to them. And we also thank you for all of those in our community that are serving food and selling food and other essential items, and especially those who are serving in the healthcare community. And we just pray that you will keep them safe and that you will bless them in ways that they might not expect, and help us to do that, to be instruments of that blessing when we have the opportunity. We thank you most of all that you have provided care for us spiritually, and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 All right, if you will all now join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, in liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If someone does desire that, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council. Were there any public comments regarding consent agendas items that should be removed?
There were 0 comments received via email and 0 by voicemail.
Thank you. Are there any consent agenda items the council would like removed? Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Davies?
No.
Councilmember Pokencord?
No.
Councilmember Scrivener?
Thank you, no.
And I have no comments either. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
This is Phil, motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Michael Davies, I second it.
Okay, thank you. So we will do a roll call, a vote via roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Present.
You approved the motion?
Roll call vote.
Pardon?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I vote yes.
Councilmember Davies?
Yes.
Councilmember Pogencord?
Yes.
Councilmember Scrivener?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So it was a 5-0 vote for approval of the consent agenda. Audience oral and written communications per the State of California Executive Order N2920. Do we have any public comments?
There were 0 comments received by email and 0 by voicemail.
Thank you. And now we will move on to item 5, disbursements and bills for RSI Petroleum.
Madam Mayor, this is Michael Davies, Councilman. I need to recuse myself because I'm an employee of RSI Petroleum.
Thank you. I will now ask for council comments via roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Madam Mayor, I need to stop you for one moment. I just need to note that there were no comments received via email, and there were 0 also received via voicemail.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This is
we will
Phil.
now ask. Yes.
This is Phil. No comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Pogencord.
No comment.
Councilmember Scrivener.
None here.
Thank you. And I have none. We'll now entertain a motion to approve the disbursements and bills for RSI Petroleum as presented.
I move that the bills for RSIB Petroleum be authorized as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. This is Christina.
Okay. And we'll now take a vote via roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Pogencord.
Yes.
Councilmember Scrivener.
Yes.
And I vote yes. It is a 4-0 vote. Pardon? It's a 4-0 vote to approve the disbursements and bills for RSI Petroleum with a recusal from Councilmember Davies. All right. Are you back, Councilmember Davies?
Yes, ma'am, I'm back.
Thank you. Item 10 is our 5-year budget for fiscal years 2020 and 2021. The salary schedule for each position classified as required by CalPERS, our city manager and finance director will now give the report. Okay, I'm turning it over to you two.
Thank you, Mayor Wiggins. This is Greg Garrett and Hannah Chung. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Once again, I'm very, very proud to present to you a 5-year rolling budget for the city of Tehachapi. As you know, we have been very fortunate to have leaders at the city of Tehachapi, Hannah Chung and her group, and then all the department heads and, quite frankly, all of the employees contribute to the success of the city of Tehachapi. And our budget is our playbook. And so I know that you have your hard copies in front of you. They were in your packets, paper copies, and then we have, of course, we're sharing this slide presentation on YouTube Live. So if we just start number 1, actually slide number 2, the first page is just our cover sheet, and slide number 2, 2020-21 citywide revenue budget. So I'd like to start with that give you a minute to make sure that you have that in front of you, and then we're going to flip through the 57 some odd slides. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so this is our revenue budget. So we have 10 groups of funds in front of you. Think of it as 10 different companies: a general fund, a water company, a sewer company, capital projects, refuge, development fees, gas tax, airport, landscape lighting, and transit. Those are the 10 companies that we run here at the City of Tehachapi on behalf of the residents of this city. Our revenue budget is $21,714,143 in total. That's all the revenue for all of our budgets within the City of Tehachapi. We'll go to slide number 3. And if you do have a question, I know we've saved at the end of every company a room for questions, but if you do have questions as we move along, I would encourage you to do so, because I want to make sure that everybody understands the playbook as we have presented. So if we look at slide number 3, it's really just another way of looking at slide number 2. Some people like to look at pie charts. So we've tried to make it easy for the viewer to look, and you can see general fund is $7.8 million, which is the largest fund in the City of Tehachapi. Water is $3.1 million, sewer a little over $3 million, and capital projects just shy of $3 million. Those are the 4 largest funds, but this graph shows all of the funds in the City of Tehachapi in a pie graph form. If we slip to the next slide, slide number 4, these are our expenditures. So this is the money that we actually spend at the City of Tehachapi by company. A little over $21 million. You notice that the expenditure is a little less than the revenues. That's the way you want it, right? You don't want to spend more money than is coming in, right? Our general fund, $7.7 million, which is about 36%. Capital projects, 3.9. Sewer, 2.8. Water, 2.6. Trash, 1.4. Gas tax, 960. Airport, 768. Landscape and lighting, 466. Development fees, that's when you build something in the City of Tehachapi, you pay fees. And transit, that's our dial-a-ride. And you can see there's a breakdown of all of those funds. We go to slide number 5. This is the city-wide for 2021 expenditures, or the money that we expect to spend in the next fiscal year. This starts July 1st of this year, right? At midnight, July 1st is when this budget kicks in. And for the expenditures, general fund, we expect a $7.7 million. For projects, 3.9. That's a big number, right? Lots of projects in the City of Tehachapi. Grant funded mostly. We'll get into that a little bit later. Sewer, 2.8 million. That's the sewer company that we run on behalf of the residents, our sewer plant and everything associated with it. And then our water company, $2.6 million. So those are the top 4 companies in terms of dollars. And you can see the other companies as the slices of the pie get a little smaller. Go to the next slide, slide number 6. This is our 2021 expenditure budget, the top 3, right? Personnel, 8.1 million, operating, 8.7, and capital outlay, 4.5. Those are the 3 biggest chunks of money that we expect to spend at the City of Tehachapi. Slide number 7. This is a citywide personnel change slide. We have instituted a hiring freeze. Some 8 or 9 weeks ago, COVID-19 hit us, and it hit us smack in the face, right? Nobody could have ever predicted this. However, your team at the City of Tehachapi has always budgeted conservatively and spent conservatively. We institute a hiring freeze right away, and we are one of the departments that we must keep fluid is our Tehachapi Police Department. TPD protects our assets. They protect our families. They protect our businesses. We expect to fill one of 2 vacancies, not new positions, but vacancies, next fiscal year. Also, per our contractual agreements with our unions, our Tehachapi Police Department Association and the Public Works Association, and the other employees, we are instituting a 3.2% cost of living adjustment. We're very proud of the fact that we can do that. Moving to slide number 8. This is a slide that shows the total number of employees, whether they're full-time employees, part-time employees, or contract employees, or elected officials, as we have with the City Council, Clerk, and Treasurer. So you can see we have a total of 84 total. Next year, we expect to have 86. We're adding one to our police department that we talked about. And then a part-time, if we go down to the part-time category, it shows 11, going from 10 to 11, from this year actuals to 2021, 11. That is an additional dispatcher for our communications department. Okay? That's a snapshot of our employee count. Going on to slide 9, this is our general fund revenue. This is a pie chart that shows all of the revenue sources for general fund. General fund, as you know, is the unrestricted pot of money that the city can use in various ways, as opposed to water, sewer, those enterprise funds that must be used for those companies. General fund has quite a bit of flexibility. If we look at our revenue sources, sales tax, of course, is the number one driver there, $2.8 million. Whenever you register your vehicles, that money, some of that money is trickled down to local government, $1.3 million. And then we have property tax, $1.24 million, which is number 3 piece of the pie. And then other revenue, which is just over $1 million, but that has to do with grants and so on and so forth. And you can see the other pieces of the pie as they get smaller. Again, the general fund revenue, $7.759,910 million. Okay? So if we look at the top 10, this is just a snapshot on the top 10. Sales tax, vehicle license or VLF, property tax, development services, we talked about that. Transit occupancy tax, sometimes we call that TOT. That's when you stay in a hotel in the city of Tehachapi. There's an 8% bed tax. Service charge, that's mostly with Jay's group on community development and development services. And then franchise tax, grants, business license, and so on and so forth. And we're showing that at just about 99%. There's some miscellaneous income there. So that's a snapshot on the top 10 revenue sources. That's slide 10. We're going to go to slide 11. These are other sources of revenue, miscellaneous, if you will. As you know, we have passport processing, credit card fees, as people pay their water sewer bills, property lease revenue, so on and so forth. And so you can see that adds up to a little over $100,000 in miscellaneous revenue to the general fund. Moving on to item 12, or slide 12. So this is our general fund revenue for 2020-2021. And this is a comparison between the year that we're in now, the fiscal year, and the new fiscal year, which starts again July 1st. So if we compare the two, we've done lots of homework to compare our variances. If there's a bracket, that means it's down, right? It's a negative. If it's unbracketed, that means it's a positive. If we start with the sales tax, we expect $83,679 increase in sales tax. Now you might think, why is that? In this moment in time, why would you expect sales tax to go up? Well, we've done a lot of due diligence. We've talked to the owners and management of Pilot Travel Center, of Love's Travel Center, of Home Depot, Tractor Supply, Walmart, so on and so forth. And then HDL, they are a sales tax consultant that we've worked with for many years. And so we've come up with this number of an increase in sales tax. Our vehicle license fee, we expect that to go down $70,000 for obvious reasons, right? People are not buying new vehicles right now, even though they have some great deals out there. If you're gainfully employed, you may consider that. If you're not, you may hesitate. Property taxes, we expect those to go down a little bit, $8,700. Development services revenue, that's Jay's group. Those are fees that we collect as we work on projects. Transit occupancy tax, or TOT, $64,000. We expect that to go down. So on and so forth. And we expect police grants to, and that varies, right, with grants,
Yes.
grant cycles, $53,000. All in all, we expect our general fund revenue to go down $121,636. That's all incorporated into the budget that we're looking at this evening. We'll go to the next slide. That's slide number 13. And these are, as you can see from the graph that we're looking at, the sales tax is definitely top revenue source. So this is just a way of, in a snapshot, looking at the same data that we just talked about, but you can see the numbers and you can see a 10-year trend from 2015 all the way to 2025. And we're right here at 2021, kind of slightly to the right of the middle. And those are the history, the trends, and then what we expect things to look like in the future. Okay? Okay, we're going to go on to slide 14. And this is the 2021 property tax revenue. So we receive about $1.245 million that we talked about just a moment ago. Again, this is a 10-year snapshot of past mid-year budget reviews, actual amounts, and very conservative projections. What this graph does not show is any new development. We chose to do that on purpose because any new development, obviously, you would pay new property tax. So our revenue projections do not include that. And again, we did that on purpose, chose to, so that we can continue to budget conservatively. This graph just shows the slight 1.5, which is dictated by Proposition 13. Okay. Slide number 15. This is the 2020-2021 sales tax revenue, again, that we talked about. It's the 10-year snapshot, $2.8 million, actuals versus estimates. You can see highs and lows, recessions, when Walmart opens, different things that happen. And this, again, is an educated approach to what we know and how we budget. Moving on to slide 16. This is our transit occupancy tax of $577,000 that we talked about a moment ago. This is the 10-year snapshot. You can see it taking a deep dive, 2021. That was our mid-year budget projection. Those are actuals, except we've talked to the hotel owners and we've seen for ourselves that hotel occupancy is coming back online. People are getting a little back to normal. Caltrans, LA City Department of Water and Power, the railroad, the wind industry, they're starting to rent rooms again by the night. We also have, we also have the new Marriott that's being built right now. We're in the Capitol Hill side of town on the north side, over near Adventist Health, Tehachapi Valley Hospital. We're very excited about that. That's an 85-room suite hotel, and they're very anxious to get their doors open sometime late this year, and that will add an additional revenue source to our TOT funding. All right, moving on to slide 17, vehicle license fee, $1.3 million. As I mentioned earlier, it's a 5% decrease from 1920 fiscal year. We see a slight increase from the 1819, and that's taken into account also. And again, the VLF, history and trends, we have a very conservative estimate as we build our budgets. Moving on to slide 18, this is the 2020-2021 general fund expenditures, or this is the money that we spend out of general fund. Of course, with most every company, personnel is always your biggest cost, $5.3 million out of general fund. The second is operating expenditures, 2.1, capital purchases, 180,000, and then debt service, 164,000. The debt service is for the loan that we took out for dispatch. Remember, we chose to go away from Bear Valley CSD and bring in-house our communications department, one of the best decisions we've made. And then some police vehicle lease payments. Tehachapi Police Department is funded wholly through the general fund unless we get a grant from time to time. Slide 19, next slide. This is the departmental general fund expenditure. So this is by department. If you took the general fund and created a pie, you would see that the police department is our biggest cost out of our general fund. 49%, or just shy of $3.8 million. Again, they do an amazing job protecting our friends, our family, and our assets. And we are one of the safest cities, if not the safest city in Kern County, and we want to keep it that way. So it's money well spent, well deserved. Chief does an amazing job. The second is development services, $1.2 million. A lot of that is reimbursable. When you come to the city of Tehachapi to develop something, you're going to first start with Jay and his group, and a lot of those fees are reimbursable. But that's the money that it takes to process that, so it's an in and an out, if you will. General government is third. That's Ashley, City Hall, City Clerk, those sorts of things, accounting, all of those different things. Four is Public Works, a little shy, less than $1 million. That's not water and sewer, that's streets and roads, those sorts of things. And the fifth is finance, $322,000, to make certain that we keep everything in order in our money world. Moving to the next slide, this is slide 20. This is the general fund summary. So this brings everything together. This is a really exciting slide because it shows a good story. Money coming in, money going out, and what we're doing with it. I want to point out a couple things to you. If you look at kind of the middle, it says CalPERS unfunded liability payment. Brown, it's in the middle. There's nothing in the 2021 or the 21-22, but starting in 22-23, we need to start paying down our unfunded CalPERS, which is the City Employees Retirement System. So as you know, several years ago, CalPERS overestimated their returns on their investments, and so every city has an unfunded liability. Ours is floating, quite frankly, between $4.5 million and $7 million, which is very manageable. Some cities are in the tens of millions or even higher, hundreds of millions with their unfunded liability. But CalPERS is allowing us the ability to pay that down. So we're going to start contributing money towards that in 2022, $100,000. Then we go to $250 and $250 and so on and so forth. If we go down a little bit to the revenue versus expenditures, kind of 2/3 of the way down, it's a yellow line. You can see that we expect $13,169 in the black by the time we enter or end next year. That's a really good thing, right? You want to be in the black. So by the time we have budgeted very conservatively, we spend very conservatively, we expect to be in the black once again, 13,000, so on and so forth. So you can just kind of go to the right. If we didn't pay the unfunded liability for CalPERS, we would have those dollars into our bottom line. But the biggest thing that I want to point out is the cash balance. the very bottom. Right now, we have hard green cash, $5.8 million. Next year, 5.7, following year, 5.6, 5.5, and 5.9. That's with paying bills that were thrust upon us, quite frankly, and still operating the city of Tehachapi without cutting services, without cutting personnel, and continuing to deliver a good product. If we add those numbers to our emergency reserves and cash balance, next year we'll have just over $7 million. And that trends out through the next 5 years. So I'm really excited to report that we have $7 million hard cash in our possession. Hopefully the state of California is not listening to this YouTube Live and send me a bill. That's our general fund summary. Are there any questions before we move on to the other companies on our general fund?
This is Phil. Just a comment. It's very healthy at this point, and we're very fortunate based on cities around us. We're in a good, very, very good financial position. So keep on going. This is really good news so far.
Thank you, sir.
Greg,
Okay,
on the CalPERS unfunded liability payment, I think I'm a little confused. They overpaid, so we have to pay them back. Is that correct?
No, they did not overpay. So if you're in the CalPERS system, which is a California retirement program, similar to the school districts, they're in the school district's retirement program. So the city of Tehachapi pays into this big account, right? So they manage our retirement program, the assets, and the investments. So when the recession hit, a couple of years ago, it seems like yesterday, but several years ago now, the CalPERS management team were overstating what they expected to get back on their investments, or our money, quite frankly, by quite a bit, several percentage points. So it left everybody in the CalPERS system holding the bag. And so they looked to all the participants, and there are millions of participants in that system. So we had an unfunded liability. So that means we had to pay more. We have to pay more. They were using a discount rate of 7 3/4 at that time, and now it's 7. And we expect it to go down again, actually, right? Because if you think about the stock market and how that works, we expect it to go down to the 6% return. And then people are living longer too, right? So you're on the retirement system longer than they had projected. So they're unfunded liabilities, they call it. And so we're required to help them kind of fill in the blanks, if you will. Does that make sense? Okay. Moving on, let's see, slide 22, which is the enterprise funds and capital projects. Enterprise funds, consider them as a company, right? And so we're going to start with our water company first. This is slide 23. And this is for operating, right? This is our operating. Water sales revenue, so that means when you turn on your tap at your water, we received about $2.1 million in revenue from water sales. It's about a $20,000 decrease from last year. And as the economy floats down, people use less water. As winter comes along or drags on, in this case, we had a wet winter and not a super wet winter, but wet enough, and then a kind of a rainy spring. And so that decreases water usage. Also, our water connection fee revenue, we expect it to increase. Now, water connections, that means when you build something, you build a structure, whether it's a home or a retail establishment, manufacturing, industrial, you pay a connection fee for the right to plug into our water system. If If you lived in the county, in certain areas, you might drill a well. But in the city of Tehachapi, you're required to connect to our water system. $301,000 increase. 147 EDUs. EDUs stands for Equivalent Dwelling Unit. The dwelling unit is one home. Think of it that way. And the water entitlement fee, that's when you build something in the city of Tehachapi. You're required to do one of two things. You're required to bring water rights with you, or you pay a certain fee that Jay and his group have worked hard at establishing. It's called a water mitigation fee, which is our old name, but now it's called a water entitlement fee. So we're not going to allow you to build unless you bring water. That's smart planning. Slide 24. This is our water fund revenue in total, right? This is water usage, this is water fees, different things like that. So, of course, the retail water utility company, $2.1 million. Water right mitigation, $463,000. These are revenues, money coming in. The third one is the connection fees, $301,000, and then other miscellaneous revenue, $250,000. That's the in total water company in a pie chart. If we go to slide 25, this is our trend. This is the 10-year snapshot, so we can look back and we can look forward. We're in the middle there, right, just slightly to the right of the mid-2019, 2020. We're showing a slight increase. If you look to the left, the numbers are not big. They're not growing big. 2,250,000, 2,450,000. But we show our line just slightly growing over the next couple years, over the next 5 years, a slight increase. So it's conservative budgeting for water sales revenue. Okay? Slide 26. It's very hard to predict future revenue as it relates to development fees. We do have some great projects in the queue. Sage Ranch, the address, different out pads at the Walmart area, Capitol Hills is seeing some activity. But until you pull a permit, it cannot be guaranteed, right? And so we budget super conservatively with a kind of a minimal budget activity. The water connection fees, those monies are not used to operate the city. When you pay a connection fee, that money goes into, let's say, an escrow account, and that money is saved, can only be used for water, the water company, can only be used for the design and construction, the new construction of anything water related. So as we move forward with our groundwater sustainability project, GSP, we might need to drill a new water well, build a new tank, those sorts of things. That's what this money is for and for only. Okay? Slide 27. This is the water fund expenses in total, $2.6 million. Of course, again, you would expect personnel, $1.2 million. It's the largest expense, people. The operating expenditures, Southern California, Edison, different things for, pumping activities, any of the vehicles that we need to produce, any of the tools that our teams may need, those sorts of things, and then some capital purchases. So $2.6 million expenses expected for next year. On to the next slide, slide 28. This is, again, the 10-year snapshot. Personnel is the blue line. Operating expenses is the red line. Capital purchases is the lower blue line. You can see a spike in 2016-17. That's when we built water tanks right up on Curry. We spent a lot of money building tanks. Different things need to be built from time to time, or upgraded, or maybe drill a new well. So that's a snapshot for the 10-year, 5 behind and 5 forward. If we go to the next slide, slide 29, this is a list of some things that we will need to be purchasing for the water company. Meter replacements, as you know, water meters only last about 10 years. They're radio read, and as they need to be replaced, we have a constant program where they're in and out. Some structures, a building over in the water area, leased water rights. We do lease water rights from time to time. We do have water banked underneath us, but we continue to operate our water company so that our basin is super, super healthy. $17,000 for vehicle lease. We entered into a program with Enterprise Cars, as you had authorized about a year ago, and we're leasing some vehicles these days. Same with the backhoe. And then our groundwater sustainability project, environmental GSP. We expect to spend $210,000 out of our water fund next year to help fund that project. Again, that's a project that we will treat our wastewater to our little higher level, and we will pump it up into the Tehachapi County Water District Dam south of Highline. You authorized an MOU last meeting, and so we're really excited about taking ourselves off the California aqueduct system and becoming a little more or a lot more sustainable here in our own basin. So those are the top 6 items that we expect to spend or spend money on in 2020, 2021. Slide 30. This is our water operating fund. And this is money that we spend on improvements. Operating, so if you live in the city now, of course, there's infrastructure, right? There's water lines, there's tanks, there's wells, those sorts of things. And when you pay your water bill, you not only are paying for the water, but some money has to be set aside to continue to improve or maintain that existing infrastructure. We're not talking about new infrastructure, we're talking about existing. And in the year 2021, 2022, and the following year, we have budgeted just over $1 million for a water main replacement on Denison Road, and then 23, 24, 24, 25, a water main replacement on Cherry Lane. So those are some of the things that we spend water operating fund money on. It's one of the reasons why we need to have a very, very healthy reserve. If you look at the very bottom line, ending cash, right now we have $2 million in that account. Next year, 1.7, 1.6, 1.2, and then 1 million. That's because we're spending that money on maintaining the existing infrastructure. So that money kind of comes and goes, a little bit like the tide, but we manage it and we project capital expenses that go along with that. Slide 31. This is our 2020-2021 water development fee. This is the connection fee, right? When you build in the city of Tehachapi. Again, this is an account. If we don't have the money, we don't spend the money. We want this to be in the black. A couple years ago, as Mayor Pro Tem Smith will recall, we increased our capacity up at the Curry tank water sites by more than 50%. We don't take loans. We don't go to the bank. We utilize this money, this cash that we have, and we're able to design, go through the environmental process if we need to, and then build infrastructure. So if you build something, you pay a fee. That money is saved until such time that it needs to be spent. One of the projects that we're going to spend this on is our GSP, Groundwater Sustainability Project Environmental Study, over the next 18 months. It's about a $360,000 endeavor as we move forward. But again, you can look at the bottom line. Right now, we have $10,000, but as we move to the right and development occurs, the developer pays into that account, the money is collected, and then that money is spent on future needs for the future residents in our city. Moving on to slide 32. this is our water fund summary. So this brings everything together. Operations, development fees, everything to do with our water company. I'll just point you to the very bottom, ending cash, $2 million right now. And then as we move forward, $2 million again, $2.1 million, 2.2, and 2.3. It's a very simple story as money comes in and as money is spent. This brings everything together on one slide for the next 5 years. Okay, and we're moving on to sewer. Unless there are any questions in the water, we'll move on to sewer or wastewater. Okay, let's see. We have our sewer fees. So you pay your water bill, you pay your sewer bill, you pay your trash bill. We received $2.1 million for sewer charges, and we don't expect anything to change. We're leaving that status quo, even though there might be a structure or 2 or 10 built. We're going to leave that projected revenue the same. Sewer connection fee revenue, we expect $776,000 for sewer connections, and that's 160 EDUs. Now you might ask, why is sewer 160 EDUs, and why is water 147? Well, there is a method to the madness, and Jay could explain it better, I'm sure, but it's not equivalent. A home is 1-to-1, water, sewer, but when you build a Walmart, for example, or a brewery, microbrewery, there is a different calculation used, or a car wash, for example. That's a better example. You would use a lot of water on a car wash and not so much sewer, right? So there's a difference between the EDUs that are collected. And then also the revenue, the sewer budget revenue collects fees like the Tucker Road lift station. That's for all the businesses on Tucker Road, $90,000. As we move to the next slide, it's slide 34. This is the sewer fund revenue. And of course, as we just talked, $2.1 million in revenue from your sewer bills, sewer connections, $866,000, and then small interest income and other revenues. It just shows it in a pie chart form. As we move to slide 35, this is the sewer's history and trend. So this is, again, our 10-year snapshot. Current year is right in the middle. We're projecting some very, very conservative growth, even though we do know that we have some really great developers that have some amazing projects that we're working on, and we expect growth, and we can handle growth in all of our aspects. But this shows a very conservative growth pattern, the trends. Slide number 36 is, again, developer-driven or development-driven, I would say, or is. There are ups and downs there. You know, when you build a hotel, you pay a lot of connection fees. When you build a Walmart, you pay a lot of connection fees, rightfully so. When you build a home, you just pay 1 EDU, right? And so we can see that, and these are the projections as we move forward, the history and trends. Again, this money is not used for operations. It's for the design, construction of new projects that are driven by developments in the city. Slide number 37 is our sewer fund expenses, right? This is a pie chart that looks at our expenses. Now, in this case, the operating expenditures are more than the personnel. Well, that's because we use a lot of power at the wastewater treatment plant. We're probably Southern California Edison's biggest customer in the city of Tehachapi, $1.47 million. And then we have chemicals, sludge hauling, those sorts of things. Personnel, just shy of $1 million, and then capital purchases, $431,000. It takes a lot of money to operate a wastewater treatment plant and properly manage all of that product so that we can handle it and meet all the state requirements as we have a license for. Slide number 38. This is a snapshot of 8 items, 8 big ticket items that we expect to purchase next year. $40,000 for sludge drying bed, concrete. $30,000 for the headworks, screen rebuild, that's part of the processing at our wastewater treatment plant. $87,000 for a sewer cleaning machine. That's a piece of equipment that can go around town and making certain that all of our pipes are fat-free and they continue to flow in a downhill manner, right? We want to keep all of our sewer lines open and clear. Street sweeper payment, it's a lease payment of $40,000, keeping the city streets so nothing volatile makes its way into our sewer system. $11,000 vehicle leases. $13,390 for airport land lease. As you know, the airport leases land on the north side. The wastewater plant leases land on the north side of the airport for part of their processing. Once we get the GSP project up and running, that is planned to be eliminated, but currently we need that land to continue to process our wastewater. And then $210,000 that will help to contribute 50% from the sewer and 50% from the freshwater companies to help us with our GSP project. And then the 2004 refunding of the bond debt service. And I might mention that next year is our last bond payment. So excited about eliminating this particular debt on the city of Tehachapi. So when this is paid off, we will have no bonds. We'll have a couple loans here and there to ourselves and outstanding, but this is the last bond. So really excited. This is going to be a big day. Slide number 39. This is our wastewater operating fund. So this is the company that operates the wastewater plant and everything associated with that. As I'd mentioned, the $531,000 bond will be paid off next year. That'll be it. And then that cash can go into our operating fund reserves. Right now, we have a $1.5 million, it's the bottom center, reserves. And then it goes to 1.9, 2.3, 2.7, 3.1. Again, that money, we need healthy reserves because we do, from time to time, and we're always planning, Don Marsh and his team and Jay and his team are always planning on tomorrow. And tomorrow is a couple years away usually, but whenever you're upgrading a wastewater plant, it's super expensive and super technical. So we do need that cash to be able to make those investments in our wastewater company. Slide 40. This is sewer connection fees, right? As we've learned and as we know, it's very expensive to own and operate sewer plants. Nobody does it except for government entities, typically, for good reason. Again, these are the funds that we use to improve, to design and build and improve our systems for the new residents, right? We have $4 million cash in that fund, and as you can see over the next couple of years, it grows to somewhere just shy of $5 million. That's a snapshot on our connection fee funds. Slide number 41. This brings it all together, right? All of our sewer, whether it's operating or connection fees, those sorts of things, brings it all together now. Again, you kind of want this, you need the cash, of course, to do certain things, but we have enough cash in here that we've been able to loan to other city departments, as in the case of our Tehachapi Police Department. When we built the new facility, we loaned the police department $1.8 million out of this fund. That will be paid for in 23-24. So the connection fees for a public safety is projected to pay that loan off, and so the sewer fund will be made whole. And then the general fund is still owed $2 million for that, and we're working on that too. But that facility is an amazing facility that will last our city for 20 years and beyond. This too is a very good story. Very, very good story. Slide 42. Okay, any questions on water or sewer before we move forward?
Yes, Greg, this is Phil.
Yes.
So as we build up that reserve, at what point do you anticipate a major capital project that's going to need that money?
So that money will need to come from sewer and water, and that is GSP, groundwater sustainability. And so we have initiated, as you know, and as you've authorized, the study, the environmental study. We have some great consultants helping Dawn and Jay and others create that plan. And by this time next year, we should be really focused in on the details. And then 6 to 10 months after that, we should be able to present to the City Council a plan, a financial plan, a technical plan, a plan in its entirety to help put together the GSP program. So that's really where we're focused on at this moment in time.
Thank you.
Any other questions on water or sewer? If not, we'll move on to slide 42. We're going to start with the airport fund. The revenue is $819,000. This next year is projected. That includes a general fund subsidy of $136,000. The airport is an enterprise fund. It's a standalone company, but it hasn't for many years made par, if you will. So the general fund subsidizes it for good reason, right? It's an asset that we want to keep, we want to maintain, and we want to make sure that it is managed well. Ashley and her team do an amazing job. This budget does include a $30,000 FAA grant that just came to us through the federal government through the CARES Act. So $30,000 unrestricted that goes right into the airport operation revenue fund. The expenses are projected to be $768,000, which is a 3% average in expense increase over the next 5 years. The cover sheet for our airport. If we move to the next slide, slide 43, this shows our revenue sources. Where does the money come from with the airport? The number one is fuel sales, $308,000. Again, fuel sales, we have avgas and jet fuel. We price our fuel slightly above what it costs us to purchase it. And so it's basically an in and an out, but it is a revenue. The second is hangar fees. So if you look at the amount of hangars that we have and the revenue that comes with leasing the dirt, if you will, underneath the hangars, that's $59,000. The third revenue source is general fund, $136,000. The fourth is property lease. Property lease is the Pruitt lease. That's on Green Street for our newest council members, so that you know, Airport Industrial Park is actually city-owned property, and the Pruitt Family Trust leases the ground underneath all of those industrial buildings, and they pay $135,000 per year for the property lease, and so on and so forth. Okay. Slide 44 is that, again, 10-year snapshot. You can see in 16-17 we wrote off $1.4 million debt forgiveness that the general fund had been subsidizing, been carrying that debt, and we don't do that anymore. We clean our books every year, as you just noted. And so you can look at the revenue, which is the green, the the total revenue, and then the blue or the purple is the revenue minus the general fund subsidy, and then the red are the expenses. Expenses can kind of go up and go down. It depends on FAA grants. You know, whenever you receive a grant, typically from the FAA, there's always a 10% match. So if you get a large grant, $1 million grant to, you know, put in drainage improvements and taxiway improvements, as we're working on now, as you know, we have to come up with $100,000 plus our internal costs. So that can vary. We'll go to the next slide, which is slide 45. This is the airport operations by types of expenses. This is, again, just a pie chart. Number 1 is personnel. Number 2 is fuel purchases. And number 3 is operating expenses, right? Just in a simple pie chart showing you the $768,000 that we spend at the airport, or expect to spend at the airport next fiscal year. And then the next slide, slide 46, is the airport operating fund. Nothing really to point out here other than, you know, the running deficit, which is kind of 2/3 of the way down in the yellow. The zeros to the right are just because we plan on, you know, netting it out, writing it off, if you will. Midway, general fund subsidy, you can see the kind of the light brown. Again, as I noted, $136,000. Last year was $177,000. The following year was it's going to be $111,000, and then you can see it jump $337,000 to $26,000. That's because of the FAA grants, and that is budgeted, and that's a project that we've been working on, authorized by City Council a couple times as we move through that project. At the end, you can see at the very bottom, you can see our negative cash. But once again, we continue to work on, Ashley does a great job working on shrinking this deficit. And, you know, if there's more to do, we will do it for sure. But general aviation airports are tough these days, even, well, dare I say even commercial airports at this point. And, but it's certainly an asset for us. The next slide, slide 47, this really just talks about our projects. This is a snapshot slide of the projects that I've referred to already a couple times, FAA grants, state grants, and then operating transfers, and the amount of money, the capital purchases and things that we plan on completing over the next 5 years. So this shows us just a snapshot of the taxiway, the drainage and the taxiway relocation program. I know Ashley's working on some other projects, and she's been working closely with the FAA to try to, in these times, eliminate the 10% match and go with 100% grant funded. So wish her luck on all of that. But reality is we most likely have to spend some of our own money on the airport. The next slide, slide 48, is everything that we've talked about in the previous 5 slides. This is the summary. And I don't think I need to really go over it too much, other than to say this is a standalone company like our water and sewer. It needs to be, it's required by law to have a net or a net balance at the end of the year. That's why the general fund does backfill the account so that it can be made whole. Any questions on the airport?
Yes, sir, Mr. Garrett. Michael Davies here, and this is for Ashley also. Is there anything that we can do to increase our revenue, or do we have all our hangars rented out or leased out at this time?
We do, and so whenever we enter into a lease with an individual or a corporation, there are terms to the lease. Typically, they're 20 years plus 5, making it essentially a 30-year lease. But the terms of the lease are spelled out in terms of price per square foot. So we charge a certain amount of money per square foot for dirt, or a certain amount of money per square foot for a hangar, for instance. And so that really is set, and that is dictated by supply and demand, right? And, you know, we're always looking to reduce costs, but there's very little room to increase revenue unless somebody were to want to build, you know, some hangars or, you know, AT&T, Verizon, you know, the rock pile. We have cell leases, those sorts of things. I believe all of the hangars are full right now. As a matter of fact, we have a waiting list. So we continue to talk to people about building more hangars, but banks are hesitant to lease or lend money on leased property. So almost always the developer needs to spend his or her own money. And so it's a tough business model. Billboards along 58, we own those. There are 10 billboards. There are actually 5 structures, 5 eastbound, 5 westbound. We do lease those to local businesses. And then we, you know, the Pruitt lease, which I mentioned before, you know, on Green Street, that's set for many years. But we're always looking for new development, encouraging aviation-related activities. I don't know if I answered that for you exactly, but that's our kind of frame of mind right now.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm just looking the same way how we can reduce this. Seems like this is always, since I've been on the council, it's like we just gotta get some way in so we can improve this and start having an income, not a debit on this thing.
Couldn't agree more. One of the things that we could entertain, and I don't think this would go over very well, but as we enter into new leases, we could always look at increasing that rate. You know, dollar here, dollar there, it adds up for sure. And we count every dollar, make no mistake. But, you know, we could certainly look at that. And if the council wanted to set up some sort of a little committee, maybe, and we could work with Tehachapi Society pilots, because nobody wants it to be in the red. Nobody. Even the tenants don't want it to be in the red. But, you know, really, people don't want to or can't pay more either. So, you know, it's a tough situation for sure.
Hey, Greg, I'm sure we are all on the same page here that, you know, with such a healthy city budget that we can all feel really proud of, this is the one thing that I think persists, and we, you know, just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. I have every confidence that Ashley and the smart folks that are looking at this are not missing any of the easy things, and I even dug into some of the complexities here. But I share Mike's motivation to try to see what we can do, and I just had a question about events that are held at the airport. Is that an opportunity that we know we can't necessarily drive that? It's based on interest, but is that something that the airport is would potentially be able to even out our budget if we had more events at the airport?
It's a great question, Council Member Scrivener. So just so that I'm clear, are we talking about the airport south side, like Cheers to Charity? Or are we talking about the north side, excuse me, rodeo grounds, or both?
Well, if you include the rodeo grounds in the airport budget, then I would definitely be including both. I'm just like, you know, again, so much to be proud of in all this that we're digging into today. So many great people, you know, doing good work and carrying their own water, and the accountability is clear. And right. I like I said, I asked this question with a complete confidence that there's certainly folks that have worked on what they can, the low-hanging fruit, but just wondering if that is something that, I don't know if we make money in, you know, or if we break even, or if there's liabilities, but you know, we can probably table that, but that would just be something I'd be interested to learn a little bit more about.
Absolutely, I would be happy to. I know Council Member Mayor Pro Tem Smith has been asking about this over the years, and it's a great question with solid answers. It's always been our policy to not charge nonprofits for use of city facilities, whether it's Airport Park or the airport with rocket launching, stargazing, or Green Street with Farmers Market or the Apple Festival or so on. And then on the north side, this you may learn a little bit here. The entire north side, from the runway all the way to Highway 58, is owned by the city of Tehachapi, but it is airport property. Some of it is carved out for aviation use, close to the runway, if you will, for future taxiway and development. And then the far north side is non-aviation revenue generating property. That's where the rodeo grounds sit. And so as we move forward with our GSP program, we hope to be able to get the wastewater treatment plant operations off that property and get it into more of a revenue generating position. Right now, the city of Tehachapi has a lease with TMRA, Tehachapi Mountain Rodeo Association, where they have the bull riding on July 4th, they have the Mountain Festival Rodeo, lots of children events throughout the year, and the airport does receive some minor revenue per our lease with TMRA for parking. So we receive about $4,000 in parking revenue for that. But the intent is, if we can get GSP online sooner than later, then we could establish a more revenue-generating situation on the north side. We spent city money a couple years ago. Mayor Pro Tem Smith will remember this. We spent several $100,000 on a study, and we commissioned AECOM to design and to put together an engineering package for the infrastructure for our event center on the north side. You think about the Chamber of Commerce, Mount Festival, and other things. The carnival that they have in the dirt lot now, south of Wells Education Center. Well, at some point, that might have houses on it. The carnival is going to need a home. And so we need to help the Chamber of Commerce find a new home. If we had a banquet center over there, you could have rock and mineral shows. You could do all kinds of fun things. You know, Tehachapi is a destination, and people are always wanting to come here and visit, spend some time here. And if we had a venue, then we could establish more revenue that goes right back into the Airport Enterprise Fund. 100% of those dollars go back into the airport fund. So what I'd like to do, if Mayor Pro Tem Smith and Council Members Scrivener would like, maybe we could have a powwow here at City Hall in the next couple weeks, maybe after this COVID-19 thing is a little less intrusive, and we can talk about how ways we can put together to move forward on this.
Thank you. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, and I'll just reach out to you, or Ashley will reach out to you in the coming weeks, and we can study this a little more.
I think it's worth studying. Right now, the other question I have with the event center, and we're talking about, okay, we're waiting on the groundwater sustainability plan to unencumber the north side from its use at the sewer plant. Can we, since we have a sound reserve, is there any way of accelerating the project for groundwater sustainability that would allow us to move forward slightly faster on the event center?
Dawn Marsh, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Could you answer Mr. Smith's question, please?
Yeah, at this point, the rate at which we move forward with the groundwater sustainability project is not dictated by money. It's really dictated by the study work and CEQA. And so it's really not a funding or a spending rate issue at this point. We can't go any faster. So unfortunately, no.
We'll just continue to raise the hopes that we can get that event center out there. How many years out are we on unencumbering that property?
That's a good question. I at a minimum 5 to 7 years, realistically.
Wow.
GSP project is a very technical program. We're working closely with our partners at Tehachapi Cummings County Water District. We have MKN, I think is the name. Is that right, Jay?
Yeah.
MKN. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is on board. Everybody's working hard, but this is something that is not done very often, if at all. And we have an adjudicated basin, and it's very, very technical. And you can rest assured that everybody is, you know, pushing to get it done, because it's in our best interest to get it done quickly.
Greg,
so that we can be sustainable, self-sustainable.
Hey, Greg, this is Jay. May I offer a comment?
Yes, please.
Maybe to offer you a glimmer of hope, Councilmember Smith, while I do agree with Dawn's timeline interpretation, the question marks regarding the validity of the project will be answered sooner than that timeline. The creation of some kind of event center there would take years in and of itself to go from, you know, idea to fruition. And so there could be some overlap between those two, where we get a couple of years down the road on the approvals with the state for the IPR project, and we're working through the final design. And at that point, we probably are a lot closer to being assured that the project is going to be a success and will come online as planned. And then it's just a matter of building all the improvements. And at that point, you could probably start moving forward with generating plans on things associated with the event center if the council were interested in trying to accelerate that. So just wanted to kind of give you the hope that maybe there could be a little bit of overlap there to reduce the overall time taken.
Okay. I think Councilmember Scribner and myself and Greg, I'd like to talk offline a little bit more on this, because this seems to be an eternity when it just keeps going out in the future. Is the entire area that the event center would be on encumbered, or are there certain things we could look at to phase in earlier?
So the answer would be, the intent would be to phase in. And I don't want to overlook our partners. TMRA, Tehachapi Mountain Rodeo Association, is a big partner. And then we have private money. Mark and Jesse Milano spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on that amazing grand entrance to the Tehachapi Event Center Rodeo Grounds. And they want to contribute more money. And there are others out there that want to help us build covered arenas, banquet centers, those sorts of things. So we have a burning desire to be extremely efficient, phase this, and open up the property as soon as we can, so that we can get, one, additional revenue into our airport enterprise fund, and then two, opportunities for our city and community residents, right, to enjoy recreational activities. So it's win-win. And Ashley is also working with the FAA. They're very aware of these programs, this project. They're in line with it, and we continue to keep them informed. And so they play also a big role in this transformation, if you will.
Okay, well, thank you on that. We'll discuss this further, and you know, I have a feeling that we could get something started sooner than having to wait for the entire groundwater system project to be completed. I certainly think we could put a building up somewhere that we could get in sooner than that. So that's where I'm headed with it.
Very good, sir. And so Ashley and I will be in contact with Mayor Pro Tem Smith and Council Member Scrivener if that meets your approval.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful, I agree.
Okay, back to the budget. Slide 49. We're going to shift gears a little bit. Talk refuse, right? Trash. Right now, the City of Tehachapi has a contract and agreement with Waste Management Corporation to fulfill that need. We collect a 10% handling charge on the actual cost of picking up our rubbish and our recyclables, and as you know, organics in the future that we're trying to push out somewhat. And so that 10% pays for front desk, it pays for our accounting services, those sorts of things, and the management between the city and the state, the Cal Recycle Corporation. So really, we want this fund to be a net, if you will, at the end of the year, running a little bit in the black. We don't want it in the red at all. A little bit in the black is good. If it's too much in the black, then we are probably charging too much. But we're not charging too much because, as you can see, 2/3 of the way down. The mid-year last year, we had $2,722 in the black. We're projecting for 2020, 2021, $4,800 in the black. So we're charging just what it costs for the service of curbside trash and recycling pickup. Okay. The next slide, slide 50. This is that 10-year. The top red is the operating expenses, which includes the payments to Waste Management, of course. And then the bottom blue line, very, very close, kissing the bottom, is the personnel costs. And there's some allocated costs in there, too. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's a limited life of the landfill. Do you have any projections? Are they going to purchase more land adjacent to the current landfill, or are we going to have them start? I know it's just part of the contract, and if they have to start hauling to be in a landfill, is that going to impact our what we have to charge?
It's a great question, and I'm going to ask Corey Costello to answer that. He is in the city. He's the one that works directly with Waste Management and the state of California and the Kern County Waste Department for all of those. But that certainly is on the horizon.
The good news is, from what Waste Management has been able to work with the county, landfill management has really taken a turn for the good. It's not like it used to be where we just threw trash out in the open field. And these days, the way they compact it, the way they build, at the last study I saw, I mean, our landfill had another 15 to 20 is what they kind of put on it under current landfill development standards. And so there's hope for that to even be extended as the science gets better. And also, that's why the recycling piece is also important, as sometimes that can be burdensome. But the more you're diverting away from the landfills, the less landfill space you need. And that will play true to the current recycling we have, to the future programs we have as well. So right now, everything gets sent up here locally. There is exceptions. We mentioned that in our organics presentation. That stuff actually will have to get transferred eventually down to Mount Vernon, and there's a cost to that because this landfill doesn't do the organics yet. So good news is there is a lot longer life than anticipated because the science of landfill management has changed. And then as we have more diversion, I mean, even now when you go to the dump as a household customer, they want you to take wood in one place and metal in another place, and all that stuff gets recycled. So the recycling efforts have actually helped for the long-term, life of a landfill.
Thank you, Corey.
There's a lot of science to managing trash. Okay, that was slide 50, just a simple snapshot. If we look to slide 51, we're gonna move into the transit area, right? It's dial-a-ride, buses. And as you know, the city of Tehachapi is required to meet our fare box ratio. We're required to pay the bills before we receive our road money for asphalt or for streetlights. And the goal is to always make this, as the other funds, kind of a net-net as far as the refuge funds, net-net. Any unused money can be spent on streets and roads, but we are required to spend this money on public transit. And so if you look, we want it to be a zero across the board. If you look at 2/3 of the way down, you can see the yellow line going from the left to the right with our surplus or our deficits, and any unused funds we use on roads. Other than that, that money is required to be used on dial-a-ride. So that's the transit. And if we flip to the next page, page 52, again, contract payments to Kern Regional Transit, it's required. It's the red line as we go across this 10-year kind of snapshot. And then we have some personnel costs here at the city, right? Hannah, Corey, others spend a little bit of time on managing Kern Regional Transit, the state of California, and all the requirements, quite a bit of requirements, quite frankly, for the personnel costs. But as you can see, it's just about $50,000 a year. So that's slide 52. If we look to slide 53, this is a special fund revenue slide, mostly street development or street maintenance funds and some development fee funds. So this gives you a 5-year snapshot at our different street maintenance funds, right, and development fees. So if you look, road maintenance rehabilitation account, gas tax fund, streets and roads, recreation parks, facilities, TDA bike safety, which is some helmets, $2,000. We typically buy bicycle helmets, and Chief will hand them out at the National Night Out, things like that, and traffic signals for regional development. So this just gives you a snapshot of where we expect to be for revenue, money coming in. It doesn't vary that much at all. They're usually pretty solid. Moving on to slide 54, this is a snapshot of capital projects. Now you'll notice that we're only looking at 2020, 21, and 21, 22. That's because grant cycles are usually only 2-year cycles. And it would be nearly impossible for us to give you anything in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th year. We just don't know because the state doesn't tell us, the federal government doesn't tell us. And so we're not budgeting for something that we just don't know. But if we look at the top, rail corridor, pedestrian safety, that's what we're working on right now, right? 8th Street, Denison, Hayes, and Green Street crossings, those sorts of things. The Antelope Run bike path, that's being completed this year, actually. That's why it's not in 2020, 2021. However, we keep it as a line item just in case something runs over slightly. We do have a $43,000 just in the revenue for anticipated for next year. And then you can go down the list. The tree planting program, that was an $825,000 grant that we received that will be planting trees in and around town, and different things. Enhanced pedestrian, to point that out, that's up by Tompkins School. Really excited about some enhanced crosswalks there. Summit Rehabilitation, that's a project that you just awarded the other night to, I believe, Granite Construction to repave out by Love's. West Park frontage, there's some improvements that we're going to make in the West Park area. There's actually no sidewalks adjacent to West Park, so we're going to go ahead and put some sidewalks and some ADA improvements. So you can just go on and down the list. Next year, we expect capital projects to exceed $5 million. And that money is not free money. That's money that we have to compete for. Grant money is always competitive, and our team here at the City of Tehachapi does an amazing job writing grants, delivering the projects, and going after unused money. And delivering projects, I can tell you, is so very important, because if you don't deliver the projects in the time frame that was allotted, then the next time you apply for a similar grant, you're frowned upon. So we continue to deliver really good projects for this city, making it safer and more pleasing with our infrastructure. Next slide is slide 55, LLD Fund Summary. LLD is an acronym for Landscaping Lighting Districts. So when new neighborhoods are built in the city of Tehachapi, you can read them at the top: Heritage Oaks, Clearview, Autumn Hills, Alta, so on and so forth. So you can take that across. And there is a property tax that is assessed. The developer initiates the tax, and there's a tax on every parcel, every home, that is collected through Kern County, and it is given back to the city for maintenance of the landscaping, the lighting, or the street lights, and the water retention basins, to name a few. You can see some of them are in the red, and some of them are in the black, right? There's a source of revenue there. And I know Council Member Smith, you had asked us to take a hard look at this also, and we have been. We've initiated some studies internally and externally. We've been working with our consultant that helps us put together these budgets. And we have Don Marsh and the Public Works team looking hard at what we maintain. Lots of turf. We found that out. Turf's expensive. And so we're eliminating some turf. We're adding some upgrades into our irrigation systems. We're doing various things to bring those negatives into a positive. And so we're working on that. We need about a year to get under our belt so that we can better understand how well those changes or improvements are being implemented as we move forward. But you can see in the far right bottom corner, the LLDs are subsidized by the general fund by $116,000. The general fund pays the bills that could not be paid or not paid by the homeowner. The city chooses to do this because we don't want our grass to die in the landscaping areas. We don't want to turn off our street lights. You can see this is for just the new neighborhoods, the older parts of town that have street lights, that have some landscaping, that is paid for directly out of the general fund. So the good news here is that a lot of the new neighborhoods are paying their own way. So that's what we've got going on there. And we're working on ways. We've got some amazing Public Works employees, Jerry, Andy, and others that are continuing to help us shrink those deficits. We move on
Greg,
to... Yes, please.
On the prior landscape or capital project, on the trees, are those going in this year?
Say that again, please.
On the previous slide, the tree project, is that going to happen this year, the $825,000?
We hope so. So Andrew, he's part of Jay's team. He's working with the state of California. We have identified a consultant that's helping us with the design of the irrigation system, because as you remember, it's along Tehachapi Boulevard from Denison out to the Pilot Travel Center area. We also have Curry Street south of Pinion that we're improving, and then we have some areas on Valley Boulevard in the Oakwood, Kelton area that we'll be planting, and then Antelope Run. So we've got 4 different irrigation systems that we need to design, and then we have tree selections, and so we hope to be able to plant this fall. If we don't plant this fall and we lose that opportunity, then we'll plant in the spring. A lot of it has to do also with nurseries. We've already been talking to the larger nurseries and what sort of plant selections do they have at what time. And so if we don't have the trees planted this season, the irrigation system should be designed and installed, ready for planting in the spring.
Okay.
I know, I feel the same way. I know. Okay, that is slide 50. Oh, I'm sorry, that was slide 55. If we move to slide 56, this is the drainage basin. So we have two drainage basins. These are basins that collect storm water, and they're standalone drainage districts. One's on Tehachapi Boulevard, that's out at Bailey Court, so out by Select-A-Switch. And then we have one on Industrial Parkway, which is basically behind Tractor Supply to the east. Both of the drainage districts are in the red. I'm sorry, in the black, by a couple $1,000s, and then it helps pay for, the grubbing of the dirt so that the water percolates into the ground. If there is a pump, sometimes they fill up and that water needs to be pumped out and relocated. And so there's some electric costs and maintenance costs with that. So it's minimal, and that's paid for by the property owners. It's a self-assessment or self-tax that we're managing on their behalf. That is the budget in its entirety. As I said before, I am super proud of our team. Every one of us at the City of Tehachapi are super proud to be able to serve this great city and to be able to have a playbook, our budgets, that we use to help us move forward with appropriate revenues, spending money where it needs to be spent, not cutting services, and continuing to lead this county in the way that we operate our facilities on your behalf. So with that, if there are no other questions, and there may be, but I just want to read the recommendation, and that is to adopt a resolution approving and adopting the City of Tehachapi's budget for the fiscal year 2021, the preliminary budget for fiscal years 2021-22, 2022-23, 23-24, and 24-25, and adopt a resolution establishing the salary plan for each position classified in city service and repealing Resolution 03-20.
Thank you. Before we work on that motion, getting a motion, I need to know if there were any public comments on this item, Ashley.
There were 0 comments received by email and 0 by voicemail.
Okay. I'm now going to ask for council comments via roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Just kudos to everyone involved from top to the bottom, presenting a budget that's balanced with healthy reserves. Thank you all. That's my comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Davies.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to, again, also thank the city, the employees and everything that they do. This budget, I've read it, I've looked at it, I've counseled with people. I'll tell you what, it's amazing what we're doing and how we're in budget. I mean, there's so many different cities around us that are not, and you can tell by the standards which they have, how they conduct their business and how they look. I appreciate all our city employees and everything they do for us, and I think this is this is going to be good for 5 years. We'll move forward every year, but thank you, Mr. Garrett, and to your staff for putting this together for us.
Thank you. Councilmember Pokencord.
On the last 2 comments, it's a beautiful report. On the end page on the COLA, it says for living adjustment, I have a suggestion that it be just a little larger so it's a little more legible to read. And other than that, it's a beautiful report. I understood what was trying to tell us, and appreciate all the hard work and effort. That's a lot of work. So thank you very much to everybody.
Okay, Councilmember Scrivener.
Since I'm the fifth person to give my comments, or actually fourth, Mayor goes after me, I don't want to waste anyone's time, but I do want to echo the just how proud we should be of the work of the staff, and how thoughtful this report is for not only us, but for the taxpayers that fund all of this important work. I think it's a really admirable blend of a standard that we can feel proud of, and fair support of the team that's implementing it, but really with raising our gaze to what's possible, what can we do, what should we do to make Tehachapi a beautiful place to live and a place we can be proud to be raising our families. So I just applaud you for striking that balance, and appreciate taking the time to go through this. As someone who's relatively new to some of these details, I found it really compelling.
Thank you. And I would also like to echo everyone's comments, but I would also like to say that no matter what question any of us ask, we can't stump you. Not that that's our intent, but you always have an answer right at your fingertips to explain things, and that impresses me a lot. You know the budget inside and out. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution as presented by Greg.
Mayor Wiggins, I will move to adopt the motion as presented by Greg.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Madam Mayor, I will second Michael Davies.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. We'll now take a vote by roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Davies?
Yes.
Councilmember Pogencord?
Definitely yes.
Councilmember Scrivener?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. It was a 5-0 vote for approval of a resolution approving and adopting the City of Tehachapi's budget for the fiscal years as presented by staff. Mr. Garrett, do you have a city manager's report?
Mayor Wiggins, if
yes.
you would, just for ADA compliance, would you read the resolution names for the approval?
Sure. It was a 5-0 vote for approval of a resolution approving and adopting the City of Tehachapi's budget for the fiscal year 2020-21, the preliminary budget for fiscal years 2021-22, 2022-23, 2023-24, and 2024-25, and a resolution establishing the salary plan for each position classification in city service and repealing Resolution 03-20.
So this is Hannah. I would like to make a comment. And
yes.
Thank you, Greg, and all the management that working so hard on this, make this budget possible. It was very challenging and very interesting budget that we had to put it together with substantial reduction of the revenue. So I just wanted to make a comment that using this this number as a base, we will develop over 250 pages of budget book that we just awarded from GFOA for the very distinguished budget award that we received, and we will continue to submit for next year's budget award. And I would like to share that, when this budget is reviewed, there are 3 different independent reviewers, and they write a comment and write improvements that, they suggest and this and that. And, very common, the comments that we have received was they love our cash flow analysis, because a lot of agencies, they just do fund balance. But we do analyze on a level of green cash. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrett, do you have a report?
I don't think I have anything this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Council member reports. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Council member Davies.
No, ma'am, I have nothing. Thank you.
Council member Pogencourt.
Nothing at this point. Thank you.
Council member Scrivener.
Nothing for me.
Okay, and I have no comments. And at this time, we will now adjourn to closed session. For questions regarding any reportable actions taken during closed session, please contact Ashley Whitmore tomorrow at 661-822-2200, extension 101.